What's up, gents?
What is happening?
Not a whole lot.
You'll notice nobody opened a can.
Nope, not this time.
As we have.
Laphroaig.
We had the bad luck before we started recording this
Yeah,
time.
we got all that out of the way, I hope.
Technical problems as usual.
Courtesy of Mary Wayne Baker's Husband's Collection.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Congratulations on the campaign. Very well run.
Very well run. And, the thing about that is that runoff election and all that stuff, if all of our elections had two opponents that were that well qualified, we would have no election problems in the United States.
Oh, no. You're exactly right.
We just had two really, really good people running for that position, and the only loser was the person who actually came out, short on the election because, she was great. I actually voted for her, although David's a good guy too, but I did vote for Mary. But anyway, so this is from her husband's collection. You said,
yeah, this is Laphroaig Select.
Ooh,
single malt Scotch whiskey. And
age?
What is the age? Me without my glasses.
Here, I think I can see better without my glasses than you can see without yours.
Well, I have glasses, so if you need someone with glasses.
I don't see the vintage, do you?
I don't, and that could mean that it is a blend of different vintages, which I don't think they would do. It doesn't make much sense. But
crafted from hand-selected oak casks. Do not see it.
Oh, I don't see it either. But I'll tell you this, boys. It's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be wonderful anyway.
Yeah, because it's a Laphroaig. So
you can see my face on
yeah,
camera.
I can
I'm already
see.
like that.
We see you, Mike.
I'll give you the honor of opening that unless
Right
you
on.
want me to do it.
I got it.
Yeah, this is a very unique. I hate using the word unique because it's just a dead word at this point. It's like awesome or amazing.
Yeah.
Those words mean nothing now because
Amazing.
the average. Yeah,
sorry, well,
absolutely, yeah.
Amazing's been replaced with amazeballs.
Okay, that's just a way to say I'm tired of saying amazing, but I have a small vocabulary, so I'm going to neologize the word I was using before.
Gentlemen, who's up first?
Oh,
There's some ice in there
I guess
too.
we should. Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yes, one ball of ice for me.
I'll let you get that.
Okay,
I don't want to touch your ice.
just like that. That almost sounded like something else.
Don't touch his ball.
So I'm going to pour this right over. Yes.
Ooh, that's pretty.
Just like that. It is beautiful. All right.
I have no idea how to do this.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
You basically just pour the whiskey in the glass.
Okay.
That's all you do. And
Spin it
it's
around.
staying clear, so the cold's not affecting it. Some whiskeys,
Oily. Love it.
It's got a lot of wood sugar in it, I'm sure, just from sitting in the bourbon barrels. The used bourbon barrels, as they so often do with
There's
Scotch.
the Scotch can. Look at that. Oh, that's beautiful.
Man, it really is pretty. Well, man, here's to not having done this for way too
Yeah,
long.
it has been a while.
But, hey, things happen, and we deal.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Very nice.
Oh, yeah, that's just one of the best scotches on the planet.
Well, we're just going to have to deal with my voice. That's why we haven't in a few days, but I'll come around. And I sound kind of like Steve-O, which is going to work.
Yeah, you do kind of sound like Steve-O, come to think of it.
Yeah. I went from Jordan Peterson to Steve-O on the latest meds. So
Now I'm hearing it now. So
yeah. It was one of those things where I fell asleep watching TV and something came up with him I'll wake up and I'm like, oh crap.
Oh, crap.
Why'd I have to sound like that guy? Take anybody else. So we got Mike, Apple Cider Club.
yes.
One of our regulars, Tim Kreitz Adventures.
Yeah.
I wish Cliff was here because I was going to say Cliff Sykes, you can find his info on obscure holes in men's restrooms down the top. So, but Cliff couldn't make it. He's missing some good whiskey. So.
He is indeed very good whiskey.
That's really pretty.
It really is. It's the fun thing about peat smoked scotches is that you can enjoy them just by aroma alone. Just the aroma that's in here from opening up the bottle and pouring 3 whiskeys is just pleasant. You know, it's just fantastic crafting. The delicacy, the delicate sort of aroma, and the delicate color and everything. But at the same time, it's a bold Scotch whiskey. You know, it's very peaty and it's very sweet, and it has a lot of vanilla from the barrels.
Nice. Yeah, I can taste it now that you mention it. So, non-whiskey Mike, what do you think?
Well, you know how I was the last time I drank whiskey on the show.
Right.
And my face and everything. I did not immediately get that whole just facial disgust after drinking it. So,
all right.
There you go.
There you go. That's my
beautiful.
review.
And as with any whiskey, you can drink a Scotch with the great thing about you can drink it with water. So the great thing about having these balls of ice is that the alcohol will start to melt them pretty quickly, and that opens the whiskey up a little bit. In fact, if you ask the average like tried and true bourbon drinker how to drink a bourbon like a Jack Daniels or a Jim Beam or something, they'll tell you straight up, all you need to do is put water in it. Just put a little bit of water in it. It opens it up, and you enjoy it more, and that's why so many of those guys do that. And I think the same is true for Scotches, even though Scotches are a completely different animal in their own way.
Jack Daniels and I got into a fight in college, and we're still not really hanging out, so a long time ago.
I've always been a Jim Beam guy as far as bourbons go. And I've got Jim Beam at the house. I don't have any Jack Daniels, but
I think Nicole mixes with that a bunch.
Yeah, I'll drink Jack Daniels though. It's a great American whiskey. So
yeah, that it is. So speaking of great American, we haven't done a crap movie episode in a while. That's what this is. When you guys brought it up, and I thought, hey man, that's a great idea. My whole schedule got bumped down a week, so I've got some good ones. It just sort of happened. It was magical. It happened at just the right time. And as soon as you guys said that, I go, I know exactly what I'm going to talk about. So who wants to go first?
If it's all right with everyone, I'd like to go first.
I was going to suggest you go first because I want to see what this surprise is and all the stuff you won't show us.
Yeah, because Mike checked the camera angle. He was putting gaff tape on the floor and all that.
Well,
so.
I have a serious movie that has issues, which makes it infuriating to watch for me. And I have a movie that is more suitable to whatever it is we do here. So which one would you guys like first?
Let's do the more suitable last.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's my big one, and that's where with all my props and everything. So I'm going to save those for later.
Okay.
The more serious movie is a film called Stella Dallas. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this.
Nope.
Is this a porno? That's what it sounds like.
It does sound like it.
Okay.
There are 3 versions of it. There's one in 1925, which is a silent version. There was one in 1937, which had Barbara Steinwick in it. She was actually nominated for an Oscar for that. And then there was one in 1990 with Bette Midler, and that one was just called Stella.
Holy crap, man! This is worse than A Star Is Born. How many times have they remade that movie? 4 or 5 times.
I'm excited to hear what you have to say because you've named off 4 or 5 iterations of this movie, and I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
The 1925 version actually had Douglas Fairbanks in it too. I forgot to mention that, but it's not important to this.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about the story just a little bit, and then I'm going to talk about why it's infuriating for me.
Right on.
The story is about this man, Stephen Dallas, who's in love with this woman, Helen Morrison. Whenever the 1925 version really digs into that more, and you really see them at the beginning of the movie kind of falling in love or being in love. But then Stephen Dallas's father it becomes disgraced in his business, and he shoots and kills himself on camera for 1925. So I was like, that's intense.
This is dark.
Yeah, it's got Bud Dwyer written all over it.
So he calls off the engagement with Helen Morrison, and he goes off and works and just doing whatever it is. The movie's set early 20th century. So Stella Davis, or Stella, I don't remember her last name. It's not Dallas yet because she marries this guy. She has to go in and she basically, I guess, cons this guy into marrying her. She tricks him into because she just goes and she's like, oh well, he likes this, I'll do this, and just going that route. they're not really right for each other. Stephen Dallas is kind of your more high society. She's your low society. So there's that contrast there for it. They end up having a daughter, and that daughter ends up being more your high society person. But he gets promoted to a job in New York, so he goes off there, but she doesn't want to go, so she stays there and becomes friends with this guy, Ed Munn, who's, just your bottom of the barrel kind of scraping. And they don't, no one gets along with him, not even the daughter. And the whole movie is about this woman who's a single mother, and she does everything that she can. She's essentially a single mother because they never divorce, but they don't live together, and he's off doing whatever he's doing in New York. And it shows just, I say it's a great movie because you see this, it's an incredible relationship between the mother and the daughter. And you still have that relationship with the father and everything, but he's just, he's not there. And it's a single mother raising this girl. And it's all about the struggles of this low-class woman and having to do everything that she can in order for her daughter to have the best life that she can. And so it's a great movie to watch. I absolutely recommend it to anybody who's looking for something. I liked the 1925 version a little bit more than the 1937 one, but I couldn't find the Bette Midler version in time to watch this. So I haven't seen that yet, but I do have opinions on it, which I'll get to in a minute. So the movie goes on, and the daughter Laurel grows up, and you start seeing more and more of this divide between the mother and the daughter because, like I said, the daughter's more like the father, and she starts, or Stella Dallas starts seeing this divide more and more too. So what she ends up doing is giving up essentially her parental rights for Laurel so that the father can raise her, and she ends up divorcing him so that he can marry Helen Morrison because they reconnect. And once they get married, Laurel can have that life that she's really meant to have. And so the movie's about Stella giving up her daughter in order to give her a better life.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't do a great job of explaining it.
No, you did.
But there's like I said, there's a couple of versions of it. That the 1925 version is more comprehensive because you see more of the story. You get more of the acting out of it because you really have to look at the emotions of the people and you really feel for the characters. The 1937 one is where I start to have issues with it because it skips that whole prologue bit with Helen and Stephen Dallas. So you don't really know what's going on when he meets her later on. But there is a scene towards the middle of the movie. Well, let me go back up a little bit. She still goes in and tries to con Stephen into getting married. And she does this by making a lunch for her brother that works at the same company. So she shows up to the office and it's like, well, I have lunch here for my brother. He's like, well, he's not here. Let me call him. We'll get him over here. But the brother's already gone out for lunch, so he's not even in the building. Another man enters the room, and they decide that they're going to invite themselves to eat the lunch that was intended for them, but they didn't know that. They thought it was for the brother. But they're just like, oh, we'll eat it for him. And they drink it with milk, which just happened to be sitting out on the desk of Stephen Dallas for who knows how long. And while all of this is going on, they take a bite of a sandwich, and it's a plain white sandwich. And it's probably mayonnaise and turkey. And they say, oh, you're a great cook. It's a sandwich.
So this is sort of a sleeper turd movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I get it.
It's a sandwich. There's not. I mean, it's mayonnaise, it's bread, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The next part, you jump forward a little bit, and it's when Laurel is more grown up. She's probably late teens, early 20s, and they're at a country club, and they're going around, or she's going around and having fun with all of her friends there, and they go to a soda shop, just with milkshakes and everything. It's just a diner. And she goes in there and orders a chocolate milkshake with extra chocolate ice cream and lots of whipped cream. And her boyfriend there says, I'll have the same thing except make mine vanilla and leave off the whipped cream. It's just
not exactly a Humphrey Bogart character, kind of. Yeah, I get it.
Well, there's a lot of mundane dialogue in this movie.
It's ridiculous, and I can't tell you, I've never yelled at the TV as much as I've yelled at this movie.
I can see that.
The last thing I kind of want to mention about this movie is the 1990 version of Stella. Now, like I said, I haven't seen it, but I did watch some clips on YouTube, just to kind of get a feel for it. That one has John Goodman in it as Edmund, and like I said, Bette Midler's in it as Stella. They never actually get married in this version, though. So Stella and Stephen Dallas never get married, so she's more of a single parent. But the thing that really just turned me off of it, and it's like I don't like the direction that it looks like they're going in, is that the thing that really made this story was that contrast between the mother and the daughter.
Yeah.
And in the 90s version, it seems like they're the same type of character. So they're both kind of your low society instead of that contrasting high society, low society. So it doesn't seem like the payoff at the end is really as earned or as worth it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds like it gets sloppier the further we go, and not only in the movie but in the.
It's based
versions.
on a book. I have the author written down here somewhere.
Sounds like a good argument for not remaking movies.
Yeah.
Gets a little worse every time.
Olive Higgins Prouty is who wrote the novel, and like I said, it's a great story. It's a good movie. It's just as like you guys are saying, as you go down the road, the quality just keeps going down and down and down, and it just you lose that essence from what that 1925 version was.
Gotcha.
It's one of those things where you have to wonder there's something in the original book that is captivating, and the just the premise, just the framework and structure of the story is compelling in and of itself. But somewhere along the way, it became probably part of like artistic subculture, and that's why it keeps getting remade, because literally I've never heard of it. And I'm not exactly a aficionado of the sort of Secret Garden, Great Gatsby type filmmaking and literary world, but it kind of has that vibe to me. And I think that someone every few years comes along and tries to remake it their way. And ultimately, you always project yourself into those stories. So a screenwriter or somebody like that would say to themselves, oh, we can do a modern version of this based on what happened to me, and I'm going to inject that part of my life into the story. And then before you know it, you've become very diluted from the original story.
That's exactly what happened with this one.
And then you hate yourself for watching it the whole time, right?
Yeah.
It was, like I said, I was on the couch, and whenever they did the soda scene with the milkshakes, I had to pause it, and I was like, that's not the same thing. Why are you just like, this is ridiculous. And I got up and I like paced my living room. I was like, this movie, and I called up my sister, and I was like, these people, I just can't with them right now. And I made these long Facebook posts just complaining about it.
I wondered what that was.
Yeah, I saw that.
I didn't completely understand it, but I thought I'm just going to leave him to his devices.
And then I sat back down and started watching. And then at the end of the thing, they have the big wedding, and Stella's outside watching from the street because she's still a part of the daughter's life. But she's the new mother. The Helen's there, and Laurel and her boyfriend are getting married, and this she calls over the maid, the butler, and she's like, draw the curtains, and she's like, the curtains are here where Tim is, and she's standing where I am, and she has to call someone over to open the curtains, and just reach out your arm, pull the cord.
You were hyper vigilant at that point. By the end of the movie, you were just hyper vigilant.
At the point you're that angry, you're catching the glass moving around on the table.
You're looking for the shadow of the boom mic on the wall.
It was. They're both good movies.
I feel you.
It's just they got to that point where it was just infuriating to watch just because of what was going on. So
I feel you.
All right, so your job now is to remake Steel Magnolias.
Yeah.
Take out all the annoying bits.
Never made it all the way through that movie.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, I can't. I struggle with those types of movies, especially melodramas that are focused on female characters. It just all comes down to what you can relate to. And so I've gotten drawn into a few over the years that I thought were good, but generally, man, it's not really my bag.
Yeah, off goes the attention.
Yeah.
But
all right, man.
That's my first one.
Serve it up.
The second one?
Let's have it.
You want it right now?
Yeah. Throw it out there.
Hang on. I got a thing prepared.
Mike, my only millennial and analog friend here, he's got his.
Okay.
Yeah, actual notes. Are you using Notepad for that? You're literally using Notepad for that.
So let me take you back a little bit. Well, first of all, let me go and talk about this. One of my props. I feel like I kind of inspired this episode because of a recent post of mine, or the episode that I did.
You did very much.
And so I thought a lot of you guys would think that I would do Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which I didn't.
It's a great one.
Instead, I went a different route, and that's where my notes actually kick in. Let me take you guys back to the late 80s and the early 90s, which I'm sure you can remember because you were...
Bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Me being just born,
right?
Don't remember that area just quite as much. They had a series of films that I like to refer to as pest movies.
Okay.
And that includes ticks, nest, slugs, frogs, fly, and this next one, which I want to see if you guys can guess the logical succession of film.
Maggots?
That's a good guess, but
worms.
No. That's a good one
Worms.
too. Okay, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Mosquito.
Get out. Never heard of that.
So,
wow.
I'll put that one up here.
We've got a jackpot of cinematic atrocities.
This
to
just
catch up on.
Just the heft and balance tells me this really sucks.
So this movie, I don't remember the characters' names. I was talking a little bit about this before we started recording. This has Discount Bill Paxton in it, Discount Helen Hunt.
Those are some big discounts, man. I'm good right now.
Discount Danny Glover. It has full price Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface.
Wow.
And it also has someone who you guys might be more familiar with. I think you might probably be more so than Tim. Ron Ashton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was one of the founding members of the Stooges. So this movie, a film called Mosquito, what do you think this movie is about?
Okay, it's not frogs.
Yeah. Grub worms.
I'm gonna go with mosquito without Googling.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with mosquito.
You would think that. And it is in part, but the opening shot of this movie is a Star Wars style spacecraft that flies into the camera, it probably hits something, and then crashes to Earth, bringing aliens to the planet. And then the mosquitoes drink the alien blood, and then they mutate into drone-sized mosquitoes. Now, when I say drone-sized mosquitoes, like the big drones.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, the Discount Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt are on their way. I don't even know kind of where to go with this, too, because I watched this movie today, and it's all just a mess everywhere.
20th anniversary edition.
20th anniversary 5 years ago. So I'm going to be honest, this movie's been sitting in my collection for about that long, waiting for one of these to actually do that. This movie is all set in like a national park, like a Yosemite or a Big Bend, something like that. And they have the stereotypical 90s volleyball scene.
Oh, yeah.
With the camera lingering heavily on the women.
Union requirement, I think.
At that point, you just have to have it. And like I said, Gunnar Hansen's in it, but he looks like Grandpa Seth from Troll 2. and I actually confused the two of them when I first saw them.
Nice.
So I brought pictures for you for whenever you post them, and I have a side-by-side comparison of the two, so you guys can see exactly what
All
I
right,
mean.
I'm in.
Let's see. They have a synthetic score, which just they sampled all the notes and put it into a keyboard, and that's what they did for all the music. And let me see. There was a woman on it that I'm not entirely sure, but you know that scene in Evil Dead where the one woman, she's running through the forest and the tree attacks her?
Mm-hmm.
Think that, but a giant mosquito.
Nice. This sounds absolutely awful. So it's right up our alley.
This is...
There's a moment in it where a mosquito is flying in the air like they do, like head level, higher up than that, probably 2 or 3 feet above a guy's head. These other two guys are there trying to shoot it, and where would you think you would want to aim for shooting a flying mosquito?
Let me guess. He aimed right for the knees, right for the legs.
No, he right in the middle of the chest.
Alrighty.
Yeah, this checks all the boxes,
Yeah,
dude.
no doubt.
So I got more. A mosquito pokes a guy's eye out and it sucks all the blood through the guy's head. But through all of this, nobody mentions, to my great surprise, any vampires. So that was never a possibility for this movie.
When did the whole mandatory vampire thing come around?
I think it would have been mid-90s.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, but heavily influenced by this movie right here, because this is the place where space science fiction and horror movies met in a very horrible way.
Mm-hmm.
Is Plan 9 from Outer Space, starring a very old and tired and near-death Bela Lugosi.
Yep.
So that's a theme that's been around for a really long time. Genre mixing, basically. Yeah, taking the horror genre and mixing it with the sci-fi genre is something that's been done again and again and again and again.
Now, I know what you guys are thinking. How could this movie possibly get any better? Originally planned for this, but they actually canceled due to budget. There was supposed to have a big bank heist at the beginning of the movie. Zombies. The people that were sucked dry by the mosquitoes were supposed to come back as zombies and attack the cities, and they were also supposed to have big mosquito attacks on Detroit.
Did all of their budget go to weed for the writers before?
Yeah,
so
that story's more complicated than Frisky Dingo 1.
Wow.
They use animatronic or puppet mosquitoes for the majority of the movie, but towards the end, and I'll talk about the ending here in just a second, they switch over to hand-drawn animation. So it's animated mosquitoes flying against a house.
Wow.
The special effects guy, they had him on set, and he worked for about half the movie, and then one day said...
Done.
I'm gonna go get a pack of smokes.
Really?
And he left and never came back.
Oh, just
outstanding, dude. That is the best shit movie story ever.
Things are being mismanaged and things are going into the ditch when somebody doesn't even have the guts or the gumption to say I quit. And they're just like, I'll be right back.
This also tells me they were still paying him.
Yeah.
So
wow.
There's a scene in the movie where the Helen Hunt character, she's I guess some kind of expert with mosquitoes and insects and all of that, and so she's there and she's explaining why it's a giant mosquito, to these other guys, and she's like, this is this part. Here's where they take the blood, and it's like, oh well, these guys are ugly, and she's like, well, they're not guys because only female mosquitoes will drink the blood. The guy, I swear this happened. I don't think it actually did, but I swear, he goes, that figures, looks at the camera and shrugs.
Wow.
Whoa, kidoki.
So the big climax of the movie, they get to the farmhouse where they discover all of these mosquito eggs are in the basement. And so they're trying to figure out this is where everything's happening. This is ground zero. We
Kill
have to
'em with
destroy this
fire.
place.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they do. So they break all the gas lines in the house, and they decide they're going to tear all the boards from the windows down, which apparently they didn't nail them down very well because they pulled them off at just like with the rope. It's like boop, all this wood comes down. They let all the mosquitoes in, and their big plan is to escape. But do you know where they're going to escape?
They're going to go to they're going to escape through the basement.
They're going to the roof.
Oh, they're going to the roof.
Oh,
That's just as
Katrina
bad.
style. Yeah.
They're going to blow up this house, and the best possible escape is through the roof that they can only get to by a dumbwaiter.
The house happens to have a dumbwaiter.
That is not the least dumb thing to happen in this movie, but they only have 3 minutes to get 6 adults up a dumbwaiter and off of the house and a safe enough distance away before the thing will blow up.
This is needlessly complicated in a needlessly complicated way. Yeah, you know that when it comes down to telling a story like that or setting up a scenario like that, it came down to what they had as far as props went, what was available on the set, what kind of shots looked quote unquote right and which ones looked wrong. And that's how I'm telling you those types of scenarios play out. They become so convoluted and so effed up because they're trying to work with what they've got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a dumbwaiter. I'm
In a house.
stuck on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's a nice farmhouse, but it is falling apart, and also there's a dumbwaiter there.
that goes to the roof.
That goes to the
This is
roof.
Yeah, the dumbwaiter goes to the roof
So-
for some reason no one can explain.
You can see on the cover here, giant chainsaw.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there.
Okay.
In the movie, Gunnar Hansen comes up from the base or from outside. He's like, "Oh, I found this out in the shed." Pulls off a giant tarp that's been covering, just a bag that's been covering it. He's holding it, and he's like, "Yeah, I haven't held one of these in 20 years." And the Texas Chainsaw Massacre apparently came out 20 years before this movie. So this one came out in '95.
Outstanding.
Okay. Wow.
That my.
Sounds like a gigantic piece of dookie.
Nice.
It was, it's terrible. It's bad. I was watching it and I was taking notes because, I have my book here. I was like, I need to write some notes down that way I can talk about this.
So, okay, finish your thought.
2 seconds into this movie, I had given up on my notes and I was just, what is this thing even trying to do? And I got sucked into it.
So, do you think that this was there's this thing that happens with these kinds of movies. Some of them truly want to be good movies and then they're awful.
Yep.
Those are the ones, like The Room is a good example of
Yep.
that. Tommy Wiseau thought that was a masterpiece. Did you think they were going for a serious sci-fi horror movie and failed, or were they intentionally trying to make a bad movie so it would be, to give it that kind of bad movie
Well,
cult
I looked into that a little bit
Okay.
because I was wondering that too. Because like you said, The Room and I think to a lesser extent Trolls 2.
Okay.
You have that movie and everyone on that was convinced that they were doing something that was gonna make it.
Yeah.
And with this movie, the idea for it came around in the mid 80s, and it didn't get made till later in the 90s. But they shopped it around, they sold it for distribution, and they had an active plan to have it distributed in theaters to reach a wide audience.
Huh.
So I think with this one, I think it was just as serious or intended a movie as what The Fly would have been, or what
Okay.
any of these other movies would have been. Because I thought watching this, it's like, surely this is, like a sci-fi movie of the week.
Mm-hmm.
But because that's how it's made, that's how the actors act. But through everything that I've read for it, it was fully intended to be a serious film to reach a wide audience.
So my first thought, the dumbwaiter. I can't get away from the dumbwaiter,
Yeah.
guys. Sorry. So one of the ways that movies, from what I've read, that they take the slide into the ditch is they probably rented a farmhouse. Like, this probably wasn't budget to build a soundstage, you know, and work out the multi-floors. And someone who is unstoppable because of money, influence, whatever, is walking around the farmhouse smoking a cigarette, and they see a dumbwaiter and they go, "That's going in the movie."
That's wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Well, but they got to go to the roof. Don't they go to the roof? No, dipshit. They go from the kitchen to, bedroom.
Yeah.
Well, if I didn't know that, probably most other people don't know that.
So this one's going to the roof. Exactly. Everybody in the world is as stupid as I am, so this one is coming out next to the chimney.
Well, the movie too. I would say that, they just rented a farmhouse or something, but they blow it up at the end of the movie. They do that cool action guy thing where they jump from the explosion.
Oh yeah.
Everything just blows up in the background for it, but it's weird.
Okay.
Outstanding.
They have. I was trying to count the bullets in the guns because I was sure that they were going to have magic
We've
guns.
ruined you.
Yes.
I was certain that they were going to mess that up, and to my surprise, the shotguns that they had, they made a point to count out how many bullets they had, and that's how many shots that they fired. So
Got it.
Okay.
I was
Well, at
surprised.
least it's got that going for it.
But the Helen Hunt character, she went around with a hatchet the entire movie. So
All right. Yeah.
Now I have to see this.
Yeah, I have to see it
All
now.
right.
So we
Yeah.
can put that on the aficionado movie night.
that's my contribution for this episode.
Wow.
Nice.
That's
Very
a,
well
that's
done.
a steamer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great job, Mike.
Boy, you've been digging in. Well, I've been digging in too. So who's next?
Throw it down, Tim.
Okay. Well, my current wormhole is with not necessarily a single film, but with a production company, American International Pictures, AIP. Now, I guarantee you have seen a bunch of their movies, especially with us being into bad movies as much as we are. They made 500 movies, from everything from biker movies in the 60s to blaxploitation movies. Foxy Brown, for example, is one of the movies they made.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so a lot of these types of movies, Hell's Angels 69 and The Glory Stompers and The Wild Angels. Okay, so biker movies. But before all of the counterculture movies that they made and all of the blaxploitation movies that they made, they started off in the mid-50s making what are now just called hot rod movies or drag strip movies. And they centered around the mid-50s post-World War II hot rod and motorcycle movements that were happening, just during that time period.
So these are like the first movies you see at a double feature drive-in.
All of the AIP movies, for the majority of their run as a company, were packaged as double features.
Gotcha.
Yes, that is correct. So you would see, for example, Hot Rod Gang, which literally is the name of one of the movies, and they all had titles like this. Hot Rod Gang would be alongside Drag Strip Girl. Okay, and it would be a double feature. In these movies, the runtime to help keep them cheap and low budget was usually around an hour and 5 minutes, an hour and 10 minutes. So you could do a double feature, and it was 2.5 hours long, because the guy Sam Arkoff, who was kind of the brainchild behind the production company, says, well, we knew that people wouldn't pay full price to see one of these pictures, but they would definitely pay full price if they thought they were getting two movies for the price of one. What they ended up doing is they changed the face of cinema and American pop culture in the process. So one of the early, I guess you would say, theories that they made these movies around was that all of our movies have got to be geared toward 19-year-old boys. Because a kid that's younger, a younger kid will always watch what an older kid is watching. And a guy's girlfriend will always watch what the guy is watching. But a guy won't always watch what his girlfriend watches. And a guy that's about 19 won't watch like the Disney movies that were being pushed at the time that the younger kids wanted to watch. So they figured that their golden goose was focusing on movies that appealed to 19-year-old boys. And all of these movies do. From the monster movies that they made, some of the most classic and ridiculous monster movies you've ever seen from the 50s. They American International Pictures made movies in all of those teen genres. Everything from beach movies, Beach Blanket Bingo, you know.
Oh, okay. Was that them?
Yeah, that was them.
Okay.
Yeah, Annette Funicello and Frankie Avalon. Moondog.
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to do is, I mean, we could sit here and just talk for hours just about the American International Pictures Library, but the ones that really are fascinating me right now that I'm digging into are these early to mid 50s hot rod and motorcycle movies, these drag strip movies. And the reason why is partly to do just with what's happening to us culturally, I think. Mm-hmm. There is this huge, stark contrast between where we are culturally right now and what we consider risque and what we consider social justice and what we consider to be politically correct, what we consider to be, I mean, obviously we're all at odds on all of that stuff right now, and I'm not offering opinions one way or another, but these were supposed to be rebellious movies at the time. These were the movies of rebellion. And these kids were so tame in their rebellion.
Oh, yeah.
One of the big things was that they were having a lot of problems with motorcycle crashes and hot rod crashes. And back then you'd buy a 32 Ford that was 20 years old and you'd pay $50 for it and you'd put $100 into it and you had a hot rod. Strip all the fenders off of it, etc. We've all seen these hot rods. They endure. That classic hot rod design, it endures to this day. But the premise of these movies has to do with, one guy wants to do right. He wants to form a car club or a motorcycle club and have it sanctioned by the AMA, and by golly, we're going to do this right. We're not going to race on the streets. We're not going to be menaces to society, but there's all this rebellion going on around him and his group who's trying to make this positive change of all these ne'er-do-wells. And in the actions of the ne'er-do-wells is where the action of the movie comes from. So they're building these movies on the premise this movie's about a guy who's trying to straighten out the crazy hot rod scene that's out of control. But at the same time, they're exploiting the gratuitous nature, in quotation marks, of the hot rod scene. So they were using it as an excuse to show all this craziness and mayhem. And I just thought to myself, man, we've come a long way since Mayberry, and Mayberry had come a long way since those movies. And I've just been fascinated by what was considered rebellion and what is considered rebellion today by comparison. And I'm, making a societal. It's just a societal juxtaposition that I'm making with these movies, but I've become fascinated with them just from a pop cultural standpoint. And so one of them is called, as I said, one of them is called Motorcycle Gang. And oddly, they feature heroines. Two of these movies feature heroines. One's a chick who rides motorcycles. One's a chick who has a hot rod. And oddly enough, they're very believable in their role. And I sat and thought about how Hollywood right now is bound and determined that all heroes in all movies are going to be female.
Right.
Everything is, feminist social justice.
It has to be perfectly diverse.
Yeah, it has to be perfectly diverse. It has to be perfectly power equal. It has to be perfectly equal from an influencer standpoint, which is the big buzzword, right now, especially in marketing, is that everything has to be done through influencers and influence. And as a result, the idea of what a believable hero is or a believable protagonist, I believe, has been perverted. And you can look at it, now I don't want to get too political, but you can look at the failure of a lot of mainstream movies that have come out in the past few years that have tried to thrust a female into the hero role and it's not believable.
We were talking about this
Yeah.
right before you got here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so the movie fails for that and a variety of other reasons. And one of the things that these movies actually got right, for all their cheapness and crappy storylines and ridiculous premises, is that they knew how to put a female protagonist in a lead role, and she was believable, somewhat believable in
Tina
that
Turner.
role.
Yeah, Tina Turner's Mad Max Tina Turner versus the Fury Road.
Yeah,
heroine.
Fury Road. Yeah, that's a good one. Thunderdome. You know, that's a good way to look at it. So, another one that is older than what's happening modernly, and certainly a lot younger than those movies, is something like Alien.
Yeah,
I saw Alien, when I was 9 years old on HBO late at night, or 10 years old, staying up all night in the summer. And I totally believed Sigourney Weaver in that role. She was feminine, but she was totally believable. She wasn't this larger than life, ridiculously strong character with no weaknesses and no femininity. And that's one of the reasons I think that movie endures. Of course, Ridley Scott's a genius in his own right, but she was the completely believable heroine. And I thought to myself, here is a movie that probably cost $10,000 to make, and they probably shot it in 5 days. And there are these female characters in these cheesy movies with half-ass acting that are more believable and more compelling in some ways than what Hollywood is churning out today.
You can argue, too, that movies of that time were pushing a social agenda.
They were, definitely.
The same way they were here, but it's still more representative of reality. What makes a female heroine or a male, that's you don't have the kind of androgynous vampire guy that it's.
And that was part of the thing, was that they were speaking the language with these early AIP movies, especially the drag strip movies in particular. They were speaking the language of the teenagers of the time. And just the language in the movies, I've done a lot of reading and research, caused a cultural upheaval. They were like, yeah, what's happening, Daddy-O? And, this cat is...
This ain't my bag, man.
This ain't my bag. This cat is square, man. All the beatnik, all the beatnik talk of the 50s. That language was berated by the press during the time. But one of the reasons that teenage kids gravitated to those movies was simply because of that aspect of it. That dynamic was there. The characters were believable. The characters spoke their language and accurately reflected what was happening in society. And I think one of the things Hollywood's doing right now is they're trying to show a perverted idea of the way they wish society was going, and it's not going that way, and that's why so many of these movies are failing. So anyway, that's kind of a bit of a tangent, but I've had a lot of time on my hands with the pandemic, and both businesses have been bad, and I've just ended up with more time to watch movies. And I'm always interested in film. You guys know me from a film study standpoint more than anything else, and a pop culture standpoint, and I'm just really digging on these American international pictures.
That's cool.
Films from
and
the
they're
50s.
shit. And they're seen
crap. They're total crap.
Wasn't it Beach Blanket Bingo that there was the huge controversy over Annette Funicello's bathing suit?
Yeah, about her belly button. Yeah,
it was a belly button.
So here's the deal. The owner of American International, and of one of the owners of AIP, his name was Sam Arkoff. He figured out they had been trying to get Annette Funicello in their pictures for years, but she had been under contract with Disney forever, and Walt Disney loved her like a daughter, apparently. And so they finally figured out that she was available to do pictures, and they were going to do these beach party movies. And Sam said that he got a call from Walt, a very angry, an irate Walt Disney. And Walt said, "What are you doing to my little girl in these pictures?" And he said, "Look, Walt, you're old-fashioned." He said, "We're not doing anything bad to her in these movies. She's 19, almost 20-year-old girl now. She's not a little... she's not a 10-year-old who lost her puppy. We're just trying to show her how she is as a grown woman now." And Walt just couldn't understand it. They went back and forth on all of this. And, I'm sure Walt was a very powerful man in his own right. and had probably issued some threats about, I'll figure out a way to ruin your movie studio. But Arkoff was able to talk him down from the ledge and talk reason with him rather. And finally, Walt agreed, okay, you can put her in these movies, but under no circumstances does she wear a bikini, and under no circumstances are you to show her belly button.
Dirty girl.
Yeah.
Wow.
Belly buttons were a thing. Like, that's another thing about this period of filmmaking and of pop culture and American culture.
Thing?
Well, you couldn't show a chick's belly button without controversy back then.
Yeah. Well, and this goes all the way into the 60s in mainstream film. We're not talking off the deep end in the independent stuff. Go watch A Guide for the Married Man.
Okay.
Walter Matthau.
Yeah.
There is more TNA in that movie.
It surprised me how much.
Yeah. It was kind of a shocker to me, and it was very mainstream. Obviously, Walter Matthau and the guy that played the old man, Burt Peterson in Mad Men. I feel bad. I can't
think of his name.
A lot of famous people, but the camera angles and the jiggling and the puppies fighting under a sheet and all that. There's no nudity in it.
It's suggested.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Roger Corman, who did a bunch of AIP's pictures, who directed a bunch of their pictures, Roger Corman did the Glory Stompers. He did Wild Angels. I think he did Hell's Angels 69. And he did this film called The Trip, which you guys may or may not have heard of, but it's pre-Easy Rider. All these movies are just a year or two before Easy Rider, and they've got Dennis Hopper and why am I drawing a blank on Peter Fonda?
Yeah.
Why did I do that?
I was thinking Nicholson.
Because you're sitting close to me, dude. I'm a vacuum of memory right now.
But anyway, the very first AIP picture to show nudity was The Trip, and it's very tame, and even the way it's shot, the nude scenes are supposed to take place during LSD sequences, dream or trip sequences in the movie, and you barely see anything. It was hugely controversial at the time. And Roger Corman, I saw an interview with him where he was talking about it. He said, I only used the nude footage during those hallucination sequences, and he said, boy, we thought we were pushing the envelope, and we took a lot of heat for that. He said, but if you look at that compared to today, it almost doesn't count as a nude scene.
Yeah, it's like a commercial, like a non-primetime commercial.
But AIP helped to usher in counterculture films.
So they're not still doing anything.
No.
You know what their kind of operating years were?
Yeah, their operating years were, I believe, 1954 to 1980.
Okay.
So Arkoff sold it. His partner died several years before, and he sold the movie studio, I believe, in 1980. And his last film that he did with the studio was in 78. So they made films from 54 to 80, 500 and something movies. And you've heard of most of them. So it's an incredible library to go through. And the business model by which, and I don't know if he realized this was going to happen at the time, but the business model by which they made all these movies became this method for encapsulating American culture. And no other low-budget movie studio did that. You had big multi-million-dollar films that did a really good job of capturing American popular culture and social culture from decade to decade, but not every other movie with these movies that were shot in 5 days or 2 weeks or whatever. And there's hundreds of them that you can go through. So interesting, very interesting film study. And of course, there's the added bonus that Roger Corman did a lot of them and similar directors. So for the limited budget and the limited equipment that they were using, you can see those directors' visions. Like, you can really get some good ideas on technique and that sort of thing by watching the movie. So I don't know. That's the wormhole that I'm in right now. So everybody just go check out American International Pictures. There are a couple of good documentaries on American International Pictures you can watch. And of course, most of the movies they're on Amazon, they're on Netflix, they're on YouTube, they're all over the place. So that's
I'll check
that's
that
my
out.
contribution.
I'm into that.
Yeah, that's my contribution for the evening. That's
a good one.
So So I told Mike I'm going to cover 3 movies in one spiel. Okay, because they're 3 separate films made different years, and they're the same damn thing. And I don't know how to lead into this, but I just came up with it. You were talking about your age, and this isn't the first time your recent birth has required some catching up to us, right? So let's talk martial arts films.
Okay.
Love it.
We get Bruce Lee. It starts with Bruce Lee pretty much. There was stuff coming out of China pre Bruce Lee, and in the U.S. not so much.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of judo and the Andy Griffith Show and a few things like that. So Bruce Lee comes out, bam, knocks their socks off. So now everyone's doing it, right? So and this gets into Chuck Norris comes up, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and all of them in the middle, and they're
Steven Seagal,
and they're all very linear.
Yeah,
that's where we're going,
Yeah.
and they're all very linear type movies. And then who shows up and breaks the mold for our generation?
Steven
Seagal.
Yeah, okay.
With Above the Law. Okay. And so what are we seeing now? Well, we're seeing Aikido. Mm-hmm. So the first time anybody's ever seen a hakama, the really big like dress-looking pants, and the moves, his Arimi Nage, the famous clothesline and all like that. What started me on this was Joe Rogan talking to somebody that Seagal is like Bruce Lee and like Chuck Norris, a legitimate martial artist. Like the guy's actually good. And it's hard to explain as a teenage kid who is already bored with Kung Fu and all this stuff to see this come up. And these movies were very 80s sexiness, very 80s flashiness and all that. And so a series of movies that come in. So we got Above the Law, Marked for Death,
Above the Law,
Hard to
Kill, Under Siege,
and we can
Fire Down Below.
We can stop talking at Under Siege.
Glimmerman. Okay,
right.
Okay,
we can stop talking there because this is at a point where Seagal has first of all, the movies have kind of run their course, and these are big name directors, big name writers, big name productions. So he's been put out there. Long story short, he was actually teaching Aikido in Japan, came to the U.S., and he was teaching the stars. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, hell, we'll just put you in a movie. This is all pretty cool. So not a trained actor. And we go through this series of movies. The fizzle starts going out. He becomes a lama. Okay, he's appointed by the Dalai Lama, which basically you pay a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So now his character's changed because he can't be as violent. And the movies go to crap. Basically, his fan base, all of us, we don't give a shit anymore. We're not watching that kind of movie. Mm-hmm. He disappears. So then I find out he did a bunch of direct-to-video movies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Had no idea. Had never seen them. So my wife and I watched them. And here are the 3 that I watched within a 1-week period.
Did you watch the one where he... Okay, get
A Dangerous Man, A Good Man. Those are different movies.
Okay.
And Sniper Special Ops.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Now I have not seen the rest of them because. So essentially what's happened is this is what happens when you give Steven Seagal, like Tommy Wiseau, freedom.
Latitude.
He probably wrote this and he has his own production company.
Yep.
That's making these. And they're all the same thing. Some nefarious save the world mission needs to be done. The only man that can do it is Steven Seagal because he's this ex-special ops whatever of the week, and he comes in, he brings in a bunch of his old buddies, and we have our ups and our downs and our cool weapons and the ass kicking, and he saves it and gets the girl. Period. End of story. The only difference is now Steven Seagal's like 300 pounds. Mm-hmm. Has this widow's peak painted on. Okay. And this
like
happened,
Bela Lugosi.
This happened so so tacitly to me, I didn't even notice it. And above the law, he's balding, and he has like a normal hairline.
Mm-hmm.
So now so here's this 300-pound dude in a fashionable leather jacket and sunglasses that never come off for anything. And it's all the same plot, but a few noticeable differences. First of all, he's always sitting down. Like in everything, the dude is sitting. All right? He whispers every single line. First, I thought it was just me. His facial expression has never changed. Like that dude came out of the womb, like this. But when he doesn't have a director go, hey, dude, we need to hear you over here. So they'll have some B-movie actress with this projecting voice. I really do think that you should take this mission. And he'll, well, I only take certain missions. And you're leaning... You're leaning in. Yeah, what?
Put the subtitles on.
And yeah. And so he always, in all these movies, he scores the 19-year-old chick that's hotter than his dreams. And I swear, dude, there's a sex scene in one of them. Music playing, hugging, kissing, and the clothes start coming off. And she's totally naked. This dude is still in his leather jacket with his glasses on. Right, like we're not going that far.
That's like what's the movie with Nicolas Cage where he's banging the chick and he's fully clothed and she's completely naked? I never disrobed before a gunfight.
Yeah.
God, what was that movie? I can't think what it was called. It was actually a funny movie. It was a 3D movie.
Drive Angry?
Yes! Drive Angry.
Yeah.
That is what it was called. Yeah.
Okay, then I've only seen that clip. I've never seen the movie. But it's completely ridiculous, and I didn't catch this. I must have been asleep in the movies. If you guys had to write it down.
It might have been, you know what? It might have been Ghost Rider. It might have been Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
It was Ghost Rider. Yeah.
Check out, it's Clangers TV has a really good episode on this, and they pointed it out. Like I said, I was probably asleep. There's one where his buddy, like I said, he's always sitting down, right? And there's never like an extended scene of him going upstairs. And one of them where one of his ex-SEAL or whatever the hell he is, buddies, gets shot. And I kid you not, he bends over as much as he can, which is like this. About that far. And he drags him out of a hot zone, touching him like this.
Come on.
And he's dragging this large man in full combat kit. And these dudes showed it, and again, I missed it. It is very obvious the dude is being dragged like by a cable, and they CGI'd it out.
Yeah.
How much ego does it take, to make that kind of thing? He's not even doing as much ass kicking before as before, and for some reason he now talks like he's black.
Yeah, I noticed that happened over a decade ago. Actually, he started hanging around with the blues crowd in New Orleans, fancied himself a guitar player and a singer, and started hanging out with all these blues cats down there in the Delta.
He had a band for a while, didn't he?
Yes, he did. And it was not, I know I'm a jaded musician who's worked on a million projects and been on the road. And
I'll listen to anything new and good, and I agree with Tim.
Yeah, and I'm not just being a jaded old musician
No.
who's probably past his best career successes. It really was bad. So I noticed, just as you said, that's when he started taking on, I guess, what might be called a black accent.
Yeah.
As Bill Burr would call it, talking black.
Yeah.
That's how Bill Burr refers to it.
But it is so horrible to watch. It's just
cringe city, man.
And because he has no one to tell him, dude,
yeah,
you need to play some different characters or something like that.
He doesn't have a director who can direct. Yeah, he's probably directing it himself.
And the giant ego on top of that.
Right.
So, and if you want to see the difference, watch Jean-Claude Van Johnson on
self-deprecating, funny.
Yeah, it's funny.
He's making fun of himself,
making huge fun of himself,
and his own genre and his film genre. Yeah,
but you watch the movie and realize the dude still got it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He can still act. He's a better actor now than he was then. And if Steven Seagal, if that dude started a podcast and laughed about himself, can you imagine how huge that? other than Mass.
All his fans would come back. All of us who were in our late teens and early 20s who were, taking kung fu and living a martial arts life to one degree or another and thought he was great. I mean, those guys would all come back.
Yeah.
know?
Oh, we'd be right
Because
there.
we look at it, we look back on it and we go, oh man, those movies were so over the top. They were so campy, but we loved them. They were great.
Well,
Steven Seagal is probably still here in his late 60s, hundreds of pounds overweight, talking about those films as though they were cinematically significant masterpieces of some degree.
Well, you and I watched one after a gig one night. You remember that?
Marked for Death.
Yeah, we watched Marked for Death. And
one of my favorite Seagal movies from the early days.
yeah, and we watched it. And the hokiness is 80s hokiness.
Mm-hmm.
And the overblown characters and all that. But it was at least serious in that it was an action movie you walked away from.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, this you don't know what the hell you've seen when it's all over with. And it's comical. It's,
How are these movies making any money? That's what I want to know.
well, I had to pay for all of them. We watched 3.
Okay, well there you
And
go.
now my memory's
He made
not-
$10 off of you.
Yeah, my memory's not great. One of them was 99 cents. Dude, if it's
Oh, okay.
99 cents on like Amazon, you know it sucks. Like that's the minimum. Like
Yeah.
you've got to charge at least this. But they're all the same. They're indistinguishable from one to the other. And
Yeah, that's very true. They're very formulaic.
yeah,
Yeah.
very much so.
Right.
And it's just, oh my God. So it's worth watching because if you made a Marked for Death now and scaled the character appropriately, you kind of Mr. Miyagi'd him or something like, I could see getting away with that. Dude, he's still trying to be the skinny Steven Seagal whipping the guys in the convenience store. So, but
That's
He
ridiculous.
took a page from the Marlon Brando School of Acting.
yeah,
Yeah, in a way, that's true. Although I will say that toward the end of Brando's career, as he was not before he got just ballooned up and was huge and his health started to fail, but one of his most underrated performances is Apocalypse Now, which you and I just watched.
yeah, we watched that
a couple of months ago together, and I don't know, man. Yeah, I see the analogy you're trying to draw, but really, Brando was one of those guys who could be hundreds of pounds overweight, and he could still turn in a performance that would just
he
shock
could do something.
He was
Yeah.
incredible. He was an incredible actor. He's
yeah.
one of the greatest actors of our time. So
Yeah, so it's worth a watch. Just and they're
a
shitty.
good man, a dangerous man, and what's the third one
Hang on,
called?
I got it on to Sniper Special Ops, which apparently it was going to be Sniper, but
That's a perfect role for him because all he has to do is lay on a roof with a box of donuts and a rifle and kill
he's
people for
not-
90 minutes.
excuse me, sir. He doesn't lay down as a sniper. He sits.
He sits on the roof with a box of donuts.
and-
Probably because at this point he's taller laying down than standing up.
Yeah, and he doesn't take his sunglasses off when he does it.
Yeah, that's a good
The
sniper
sunglasses
move.
are on.
Are they
constantly.
the dark sunglasses or are they those brown kind of colored ones?
Most of them are like Oakley, like tactical
Yeah.
glasses, but he does have the
Okay.
little round propeller man glasses.
Yeah.
Look like they flip up, but they're
See,
steampunk.
and that's completely unbelievable. What guys like that don't understand who are still trying to hang on to that old, campy movie legacy that they can't let go of or whatever, is that the world doesn't see things in a campy way the way we used to. You and I were impressed by his early movies and went into law enforcement and became a SWAT commander and went
actually
through
studied
a couple,
Aikido.
Yeah, and studied Aikido, and I studied Kung Fu, and I went through a police academy, and then so now we don't look at those movies the same way. He's making movies the same way he did 30 years ago.
Yeah.
We don't look at it that way because we know the real shit now. And also, that's not even the biggest problem. The biggest problem is you can go on YouTube right now, and there are former Navy SEALs, former Army Rangers, guys who have their tactical game together, Jack, and they're out there with a Nikon DSLR making kick-ass tactical videos.
Yeah. I've watched tons of them.
Oh, me too. And so
I've been watching Jerry Michalek a lot
yeah.
lately.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
And who's the big guy, the beard? Pat McNamara.
Yeah, Pat McNamara.
Yeah. Those are all fantastic.
So there's so much of that that is readily available. We could watch it on that TV right now, 5 minutes from now, and it's all real. And so at a certain point, I think that if you're one of those guys, and Steven Seagal's not the only one.
No, he's definitely not.
You've got to. That's a myopic existence. You've not stayed in step with the pace of the world, and we're all guilty of that to an extent. But when you become so isolated in your fame and in your ego that you're literally still trying to make the same movie you made 35 years ago,
his level of douchebaggery is off the charts. He's claiming to have been the key to success to some MMA fighters and all this. And I saw a video of him coaching somebody, and sometimes I've seen instructors do it. You've got the gi and the hakama, right? And they'll tuck a towel, especially in Aikido, they'll tuck a towel inside the gi because your hands get sweaty and you need to get a grip on people, and they'll do this.
Yeah.
And he was talking, had him from the back, and he turned sideways, and I'm like, man, how big is that towel? Because this dude is huge. I didn't realize he'd gotten that fat until I saw that. He's enormous. And so here he is, the Navy SEAL Ranger ops guy.
The other side to all this is that if he's making a lot of money off of those movies, hey, I'm a capitalist, baby.
Mm-hmm. Dude, he's starving to death from that shit.
Keep making your fat guy sniper movies. I mean, if it's making you money and there's a market for it, people want to rent it and whatever. I got no problem with that. I just it's just kind of a sadness to it.
There is, but when you walk into the punch like that, I mean, and every time you turn around, he gets, okay, there was one, he's a technical advisor. I think he's Irish, MMA fighter, did a bunch of movies.
McGregor?
No,
I can't think of his name. The story is that he and Seagal got talking shit to him that you can't choke me out. And okay, well, try. Come over here, Irish MMA technical advisor. Dude choked him unconscious. Legend is that Steven Seagal shit himself.
Ooh.
Okay, I have written checks that my ass couldn't cover. Being around, SWAT and military, and woken up from being choked out.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a laugh about it, and sometimes people shit themselves. Fortunately, I didn't, but if you got to go and you get choked out, you're gonna strike the brown note.
Mm-hmm.
And what if the guy was humble about it? What if he said, "Oh yeah, that was a mistake.
Oh yeah, man.
I learned something.
I went code brown. It sucked.
Yeah,
but I learned."
Oh no, it didn't happen. He says something like, "Well, I had fallen in mud." I'm like, really? So,
come on, man.
Honestly, you guys are much better people than I am. I don't give a shit. He's in Russia now, apparently starving. These movies were all made overseas.
What is he doing in Russia? Why does he have tax trouble here or some such?
Wasn't he a deputy or something over in Arizona?
In Louisiana.
Oh yeah, okay. He sexually harassed himself out of that gig.
Okay.
And
that he has a long history of that as well.
Oh yeah.
We can go on for 40 years of that.
But see, even if he does this podcast where he owns up to everything, and people want to talk about that, he would just say, "Look, my lawyer said I can't talk about that." Mm-hmm. But we'll talk about the time I shit myself or whatever. He could still come around, but his ego doesn't let him. That's how those guys are.
Yeah, and you're right. It's a sad thing. But the thing about it is, did you know who Steven Seagal was before Matt and I were talking about him?
Oh yeah.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
but you're a film
that's
guy,
good.
so.
But you're a film guy.
Yeah.
But I wonder how many people your age and younger even know who he is.
I don't even know.
So anyway, I don't know.
If you're into martial arts movies, if you start with Bruce Lee, you're gonna
end
find
up,
your way.
Yeah, anybody who's interested, that's true in the martial arts film genre, will eventually find Steven Seagal. But man, we really bagged on Steven Seagal tonight. Man.
Well, you can't. That's just the problem. Is you can talk shit about anybody, but the dude has dug such holes,
Mm-hmm.
and we were fanboys. And dude, in college, I'll tell you right now, I had a ponytail.
I have all his movies on VHS.
Yeah,
dude.
I've got a bunch
I
of them.
still have them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, no shit. It's bad when you're fanboys like us and you suck that bad. You walked into the punch.
I also have all the Bruce Lee movies on VHS, and I have a big, not all, but a huge number of the 1970s Jackie Chan movies on VHS.
That reminds me
I've
of
got
one
my
more
favorite there.
One more thing, and we'll shut down.
Okay.
Have you followed Chinese MMA fighter Zhu Xiaodong?
No, I have not.
Okay, that would be an episode in and of itself.
Okay.
Essentially, MMA fighter in China. He was challenged and challenge accepted a lot of kung fu, tai chi guys that the heart and soul of, Chinese spirit and history is kung fu. And he beats the shit out of all these guys to the point they reduce his social class. Like he can't buy a car or ride a bus or anything like that.
Wow.
It is a fascinating trip. So
Well, that's how they do it over there. You have a social, basically a social credit rating, and the more you do what they say and please them, the more stuff you get, and the more you piss them off, the less stuff you get.
But it's an amazing,
Okay.
and that is what took me on the Steven Seagal thing, because
So there's a documentary on that?
there are tons of videos out
Okay.
there, and he actually has his own like underground YouTube channel.
Okay.
But
I'm going to check that out.
so we got a lot of stuff to watch.
No doubt.
So we'll watch some Xiaodong videos when we get done. Gentlemen, I appreciate it.
Oh man, good times. Good times.
Folks, thanks for hanging out with us.
Let's
Enjoyed it.
not wait so long till next time.
No, we've got a really cool episode. Probably the next one we record is today.
Third.
Crap. I'm retired, so I don't know. Week, man. We got to get on our stick. We have a really cool episode coming up. So
No, wait.
you guys
Today's
could,
the second.
Is it second?
you guys could tell me
You
Christmas.
can tell we're in the middle of a pandemic, man. Some days we work, some days we
Yeah.
don't.
I'm
You're
retired in a pandemic on a shitload of drugs.
Oh well.
You guys are lucky I remembered your names. Cheers, folks. Thank you for watching.
Night night.
You got a lot of crappy movies to catch up on.